This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. I'm your host, and our job at Construction Leading Edge is to help you, the construction business owner and leader, systematize your construction business so it becomes a source of freedom, impact, and wealth. I've got a great interview with a friend and a client turned coach today. His name is Monish Khadye, and here are some of the questions that he is going to answer for you. This is what you're going to walk away from this podcast with. Is it possible to run a construction business that doesn't consume your life? I talk to a lot of people who are working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And is it possible to own a construction business that doesn't consume your life? Is it possible to do that, to run a business and work less than 40 hours a week? Well, you may be surprised at how many hours a week Monish Khadye is spending working on his business now. He's not working in his business, he's working on it. You may be surprised when he shares how many hours a week it takes him. We'll talk about why he hated his business in May 2021, the mindset shift that you need to be prepared for if you want to change your business, if you want to systematize it. We'll compare and contrast the before and after pictures of his business before he systematized it and how things look now, how he changed his mind about growing the business. He'll share some of the most impactful systems that he put in place that gave him the most bang for the buck. We also talk about some of the unexpected side effects from systematizing his business and why he has now joined the Construction Leading Edge team as a coach. Lots of great stuff. Monish is a brilliant guy. He has done a tremendous job systematizing his business. So if you want your business to run without you, you may want to take notes from this conversation because you're going to hear from a guy who's done it and it's working for him. Great stuff we're about to get into. Before we do that, here are a few resources I want to get in front of you. We know as contractors, you're always looking for ways to get the job done simpler and faster so you can spend more time working on your business rather than in your business. That's why we recommend taking a look at Hover. Hover is an easy-to-use, feature-packed solution that simplifies the process of selling and producing all your exterior projects. Trusted by thousands of home improvement professionals, from contractors to the nation's leading materials manufacturers, Hover transforms any home into an accurate, fully measured 3D model with property measurements. And we mean all the measurements with to-the-inch detail. We're talking fascia, soffit depth, linear feet of trim board, you name it. But it doesn't just give you measurements. Hover gets you faster, more accurate quotes, dependable material quantities, and places your orders with suppliers all in one place, helping home improvement professionals optimize and grow their business. Visit hover.to today or download the Hover app to learn more. Are you tired of chasing down field reports? Raken's easy-to-use software helps you connect the field to the office. That way, you get the progress updates you need without wasting hours on the job. With Raken's mobile app, field crews can share updates as they build. Everything from daily reports, time-stamped photos and notes, to time cards, checklists, and production data. All that field data is turned into a professional, branded PDF report, making it easy to see and share how a project is going. With Raken's web dashboard, the office can track projects in real time and find actionable insights to improve them. Give your field crews an app they'll actually use and get the data you need to build better projects. To learn more, go to rakenapp.com. That's RAKENAPP.com. Okay, now let's jump into my conversation with Monish Khadye and find out how many hours he's spending on his business and how he systematized it. Enjoy. Monish, welcome back to the podcast. Let's just jump into it. Introduce yourself, your company, and the type of work you do, and then we'll jump into your new role, your new gig that you've jumped into. But just start with that introduction, if you would.
Yeah, so my name is Monish Khadye, and along with my wife Michelle, we own a company in Brisbane, which is on the east coast of Australia, and it's called Cartier Design and Construction, and basically we do renovations, extensions, or remodeling, as you'd call them, or additions, and we actually raise houses and build another story underneath and things like that. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. And mostly in the Brisbane region. We've got 4 staff, full-time staff, and plus a small collection of very loyal professional subcontractors.
Yeah, and you all recently added a new member to the Cartier family, right?
Yeah, we had a baby 6 months ago. His name's Max, and yeah, I think, out of everything I've achieved in my life, this is probably the most fulfilling thing that's happened. And also given the fact that by the time Max came along, we were set up, so I had plenty of free time to actually take a couple of weeks off and things like that too. So yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. And how long have you been in business?
I think 3.5, just over 3.5 years now. We started in January 2019.
Got it. And that new gig that I mentioned is that you are a client turned coach. You've joined the construction leading edge team, and you'll be coaching a cohort in our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So the question is, why? Why did you want to become a coach on our team?
Well, when we went through, before you and I got involved, as a career professionally, I guess, I've got a trade myself. I've done a diploma. I've been to uni, done construction management. I used to be a commercial project manager, doing pretty big dollar amounts, both here, and I've worked in London as well. So career-wise, profession-wise, that was all great. When we started the business, during that time, I've read plenty of like self-help books and business books and things like that, which most people that are ambitious to start a business do. Once we did start the business, as the first year went along, and the first year and a half, I guess, it became glaringly obvious that it's a complete different set of skills to building. Like actually designing and building a business compared to designing and building a project, for example. And so I've been listening to your podcast since, I think it was 2014 or 2015, whenever you first started. Like I remember Lean Construction was the very first podcast I listened to back then. And I just thought I'd reach out to you. And I knew, you do work with American clients. I wasn't sure if the time zones weren't going to work out, but I figured I'd reach out, see how we go. And when I did was when, we fell pregnant. So I knew I need to get this sorted ASAP. Otherwise I'm going to be struggling. But then once you came on board and, introduced me to the tools and resources that you've designed very specifically to help construction business owners, and what a difference it's made to my life personally, like over these last more than 12 months ago now. And, I went from, and I've always, it's kind of the way construction works here. I always worked a 6-day week, 12-hour days and things like that. When I had the business, it was probably 7-day weeks and just non-stop. To me, having a lot more free time. And also, I think, just like yourself, I'm really about systems and, processes and things like that. I just didn't know what they were before you introduced me to them. So now that I have the free time, the business is still continuing its growth, but it's now continuing its growth at the speed of my staff. And, we don't want to grow too big, too quick and kind of forego all those things. So we're at this happy period where we have to let these guys, give them room to succeed, basically, and grow. And so as I've now got the free time, I thought, as our discussions went along, what do I do? And I had all these crazy ideas, go and do developments, this and that. I'm just one of those type of people. I just have to do more and more and more. And then, as I say, it's your fault for flagging the idea that maybe I should come along and help you coach. And I figured that'd be a great experience. Like I really enjoy mentoring our guys, and I've done that professionally within our project teams previously as well. So I figured there's obviously plenty of people in my position that could use this help, and me having the experience of, not having these tools and then having them and how it's changed my business. I could probably give them feedback on what works, what doesn't, and how to best use these tools as well. And yeah, I just thought it'd be pretty cool to have a crack at it and see how many people I can help out.
Yeah. Well, I won't take all the blame for your situation. You are the best executor, the best implementer I've ever worked with, because I would describe you as a wood chipper for goals. Because if you set a goal and you said you were going to do something, then it really had no chance. It was going to happen. So I couldn't imagine a better person, especially with your experience, the results you've seen over the past, and really in the 12 months that you focused on that. So really happy to have you on the team.
Yeah, that's good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So how would you describe your experience with the content and the strategies that we teach? We'll get into the details of some of those most powerful strategies that you've employed, but in general, how would you describe your experience?
Well, like based on what you just said, I've always believed in effort. Like I'm not the smartest guy out there or like the most naturally talented person out there, and I knew that pretty early on. So I knew no matter what, I just have to put in effort and eventually I'll get through whatever the challenges that are coming up. But having, the right tools for the right job makes that effort sort of a lot less. It's kind of like it's working smarter instead of working hard. And so when you started introducing me to this stuff and we actually started applying it, not just to myself, but to like our team and everything as well, the results were, it didn't just make our business more efficient in terms of, we're more profitable now, I have a lot more free time, but also like our staff's a lot happier, our clients are a lot happier, and it's kind of put us in this motion where, because everyone's happier, like we're getting more referrals as well. Like our business is pretty much 100% referral now. We don't need to like advertise because there's too much demand now. But it's having like me putting the right systems in place gives our staff a lot better opportunity to succeed instead of me micromanaging and breathing down their neck and getting upset at people because they're not doing the right thing, because I never really outline what the right thing to do is. So there's just a lot more harmony. Like I know it's not a tangible thing, but every day, like I'm dealing with less problems. My staff's dealing with less problems. Our clients are dealing with less problems. And it's just every interaction we have is just a lot more pleasant than it used to be a year and a half ago or whatever. I'm sleeping a lot better as well. I think that's a big thing to talk about, right? Like as a business owner, you just lie in bed staring at the ceiling because you've got 1,000 problems to solve and not sure what they are. And that kind of has a knock-on effect on, what your diet's like and how grumpy you are during the day, how many coffees you're having and things like that. And now that most of those things are resolved, as we found out, my biggest problem is I have too much time. Not that I have too much time, but it's kind of like I was just in this place where I just constantly had to do stuff. And so I find it difficult to relax and not do anything, but that's where we're at the moment. Like we're in a really good spot.
Yeah. Awesome. What I've found is that it's not just the systems and the strategies that are the key. It seems like there, for some folks, maybe most, maybe even all people, there's a mindset shift. There's a change in thinking. Maybe that's the biggest part, is how they think differently. But what would you say is a mindset change that someone who wants to systematize their business needs to be ready to make?
I think the big shift needs to be that you need to give away responsibilities and power and authority and everything like that as well, because that is actually what's going to bring you success. It's not, you can't be successful on your own, right? Like, you have to surround yourself with a team that's equally as ambitious and whatever. And if you're hiring the right people, putting these people in the right seats and, and kind of making their jobs as easily defined as possible, so that every day when they rock up, they know exactly what they need to do to be successful. And it just, like, the whole team kind of clicks a lot better. So the mindset needs to be that it's not just me, like, I'm not on my own. I'm not just working hard on my own. It's like, it's all of us. And what are the tools that all these other people need to be able to be successful, not just what do I need to do to make sure the job's done properly.
Yeah. So I read a phrase in a book recently that some people look at their business as they're the genius with 1,000 helpers. Yeah. And everybody's there to help them do the work. And if that's your mindset, that's what you're going to be stuck doing. And you'll be the tortured genius with 1,000 helpers. Whereas what I'm hearing you say is you need to work yourself out of the business and just work yourself out of a job. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you need to kind of realize that if you're doing everything, you are technically the weakest link, right? Like, you have to acknowledge that if everything is on you, like, if you're sick for a day, your business is screwed. You can't not be in that position. So I went, all right. And you have to believe that there are people out there that can do certain things a lot better than you can yourself. And you need to start trusting those people. So the mindset change starts becoming, don't think of yourself as a one-man band. Think of the business as, a system or a group of equally qualified and ambitious people that want to set out and do the right thing. So you need to start thinking about, all right, I don't want to micromanage these people. I want to see how good, this guy can do his job, or how well he can do his job if I just leave him alone, but provide all the necessary resources for him to be able to do that. And you get that feedback from them as well. Like, what do you need? What do you need for you to succeed? Not that I think you should do this because this is how I would do it, because that doesn't work for everyone. So it's, you kind of have to start thinking yourself as you're your worst employee, So how do you sack yourself, basically?
Yeah, I like that. As you're talking about that, it makes me think something I've run into occasionally, a mindset that will kill growth, which will just make this impossible, is the mindset that says, quote, I have to be the best, fill in the blank, or I have to be the only, fill in the blank. If someone believes they have to be the only salesperson, the only project manager, the only one dealing with clients, the only one doing purchasing, the only one working on equipment, then they'll be stuck. If that's what you believe, then that's exactly what your reality will be like. So yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to where you were I think we started working together in the spring of 2021. What were the main problems you were having before we started working together back then? What led you to contact me initially?
I just got to a point where, I didn't have the answers anymore. Well, I realized I just never had the answers, to be completely honest. So I think that was 2.5 years into the business. So, and that's going through the whole COVID era as well. And that was a whole different thing in itself. And I'm very glad that we survived through that. But when we got to that point, I just knew, like, with the things that were starting to kick off back then were all these issues with the supply volatility. People unsure about whether they want to, do we renovate? Do we not? Like, it was just, all that was starting to go off. And at the same time, like, the biggest deal for us was, like, Michelle and I had professionally very good and well-paying careers. Like, we didn't need to switch to starting a business. We wanted to, because we wanted to do things our way as in like we wanted to treat people the way we want to treat people. We didn't want to be like, the company says you've got to screw over subcontractors to make a profit. And it's like, we just didn't want to do that anymore. So we kind of wanted to retain that, small family business aspect of it. However, we want it to be successful. Like we didn't want to be one of those people that tried it and it just didn't work out. And we just ended up going back to, being a project manager and being an associate interior designer and things like that. So when we got to that point that we knew Michelle's now pregnant, and hey, 6 months from now, it's just going to be me. I can't put this sort of pressure on Michelle where we're both still trying to figure out the business. Like I knew, like the number one thing for us instantly became like our firstborn. And it was like, I can't put Michelle under all this stress of how to manage the business while also, trying to grow a healthy baby and things like that. And I also wanted her to be comfortable in the fact that when the baby's born, she can take time off and it's okay. Like, things aren't going to collapse on themselves. And it was, we both agreed that at that point, we've tried everything that's in our arsenal. Like we've tried our solutions and, we only got so far. Like we were still doing ridiculous hours and weekends and whatnot as well. And it just had to stop. Like we couldn't, if we had continued doing that over the 6 months, I don't think things would have improved. So we would have still been, like Max would have been born and I probably wouldn't have seen it for the first few days. So that had to change quite instantly.
Yeah. So back then, how many employees did you have? Was your employee count about the same?
We had one less. Okay. We had 3 employees. That's still our side team now. The 4th employee that we've got on board, Rach, that came on board early this year, was effectively a replacement for Michelle when she went on maternity leave. Okay. And Rach is great in her own right. And she's actually told us this week that she's pregnant and she'll be going on maternity leave next year, which is perfect because Michelle can come back to work and things like that as well. So, and, she's fantastic in her own right. Like if we hadn't done the accountability chart and things like that, we wouldn't have brought Rach on because Rach wasn't looking for a job and we weren't looking for a pre-construction manager. Rach and her husband actually approached us as clients. They wanted us to build a house for them. And it just turned out like it sounded like, Rach would have been a pretty good fit. And she was working as a designer for another company where she wasn't happy. And as we now know, it wasn't the best experience for her. And at the same time, we did this accountability chart at a point where Michelle had gone, nah, we're all good. We don't want to grow because growth means more problems or whatever. And we identified that there's a need for a pre-construction manager to come in. Rach just happened to, we happened to have this client meeting with her and I just randomly emailed her and I said, hey, we've got this. If you're interested, would you like to come on board? And we had a couple of meetings and then a few weeks later, she was on board with us and it's been awesome for both of us, for her to be on here, for us to have her and for her to be on here as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So back then, you were working crazy hours. When you say working crazy hours, what does that mean? Is that 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week? But what would you estimate that to be?
So I wake up, I've kind of slacked off a little bit now, especially this winter as well, and I don't really need to, but I used to wake up at 4 a.m. and I've been doing that for 5 years now. And I'd go to bed somewhere between 8 and 10, depending on how anxious I was, I guess. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think about stuff and write it down in a notebook next to me and things like that. And in between, to be completely frank and honest, I was working for the company. I had my lunch at my desk while I was doing stuff. I'd be on the tools on site if I wasn't working at the desk, and then I'd do a solid 8, maybe sometimes 10-hour day on site on the tools. Then I'd come home, sit on the laptop because I had to. I didn't have a choice. And I was basically just, a pretty critical cog in the wheel itself. I just couldn't figure out what's the next hire. What is our process? What should we doing? Before we got involved with the whole pre-con agreement thing, I didn't really buy the idea that someone's going to pay me to do pre-construction, like to do estimates and stuff like that. So I was just doing all these tenders for free, quotes on quotes on quotes, hoping to win work. And I realize now that wasn't a good idea for anyone, really, because the guys that win these jobs on those sort of things are usually the cheapest quotes. They're usually the guys that have just missed something on their estimates, and they end up doing a job which probably isn't as profitable, but it probably isn't as good a service delivered to that client either, because it's not designed properly or estimated properly to begin with. So the hours, like I was doing Monday to Friday at least on site on 8 hours or whatever. I was doing 2 hours first up in the morning before I left to go to site, and then 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever I had to do when I came out at night. And then most weekends, Saturday was a definite. I had to work, I don't have a choice. And usually it's built out on Sundays as well. So I had pretty low social activity, I guess, back then. And then when COVID came around and we had the lockdowns, man, I just worked 7 days a week because I couldn't go out. There was nothing else to do. But that was also probably the most, anxious period of our business, because we had so much uncertainty, and like that was for everyone, I guess. People didn't know what was going to happen. But I remember when you came on board and you asked Michelle and I to set our goals, mine were all like revenue and profit and this and that. And Michelle's was just simply like, she just wanted me to finish work at 3 p.m. every day. Like, she's like, you got to do an 8-hour day and that's it, we're done. So we can spend time together as a family. So, and I didn't realize, but like looking back now, like that was probably the best goal that we had set, in terms of like everything else kind of fell in place once we did simple things like me not working weekends, not checking emails after hours and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about I talk to people a lot about the stress level, but I think the anxiety is a big deal. Talk a little bit about what that anxiety felt like for you.
It's like, so it's just a constant unknown, whether you're going to, make it, whether your business is going to fail. Probably the biggest thing in terms of anxiety wasn't, I always had the backup if I could go back and have a job. I really didn't want to, but it was there. But the biggest anxiety for me, and the worst sort of aspect of the business has been today, is letting people go, like firing people. And so when I did that the first couple of times, just because they weren't the right fit for the business, and that was because I hadn't identified their roles properly and stuff like that, but that's a different thing. But it's like, after that, I just didn't want to hire people, because I was like, I don't want to hire people because I can't stand firing people. And so it put me in this really stagnant space where the company, if you look at it as a separate entity or a separate system, it needed to grow, like it needed more people. But because I was being selfish in a way, and I'm going, I don't want to do this because I don't want to hire someone, I was kind of holding the people that we had on board, I was holding them back. I was kind of holding our clients back from getting a better service from us. And, as a family, I was holding us back from having that free time and having dinners together and stuff like that. So that's probably the biggest, in terms of anxiety, that was the biggest thing. And then obviously the next thing was, am I going to win work or not? And so that, because I had so many rejections in terms of, in the initial stages, being a competitor against 3 or 4 other builders and losing so many quotes, and knowing that I've actually quoted this job properly, it's just that someone else has stuffed up and lost it. It built this thing in my head that I eventually had like a fear of quoting. Like I didn't want to do estimates, because that process for me in itself was very stressful. Because as I was estimating, in my head, it was just like, no, you're going to lose, you're going to get rejected. And, this is like, you're not going to win this job. You're not going to have work. And it would just turn and turn and turn, and I'd just be lying in bed going, man, like, should I even bother estimating this? It's not worth it. So that was the other aspect of it. And as you pointed out quite rightly, is like, don't do it. So I don't do it anymore because we split the pre-construction thing separately. Rach now puts together the estimates. Like I still put in my part, like in terms of structures and the technical stuff, but she's the one that actually is the estimator, and she's the one that submits and gets feedback and whatnot. And because we're doing the pre-construction agreement, and it's basically a project in itself, we're getting like pretty much our win rate is 1-to-1 because we're picking the right clients. We're providing them quite a valuable service in that, and actually meeting their budgets and their design requirements, instead of me just being in a race just tendering for whatever. So now, instead of us winning one in, I think it was 5 jobs or 1 in 6 jobs, we're only estimating jobs that the clients quite seriously would like us to do. And the only reason it hasn't gone forward in a couple of instances is because these supply prices have just been ridiculous, and it's the job's gone out of what people could afford, basically. But in saying that, it's on a waiting list. So these people are like, I might come back to you a couple of years later and whatnot when I'm ready. So yeah.
To summarize, working 16-hour days, 5-6+ days a week, hated estimating, spending a lot of time doing free estimates, growth was bad, stress level was high, didn't want to hire people. Kind of a gloomy picture back then. So take us to the moment we started working together, you started executing on these strategies. Take us to the moment when you realized that the work you were doing was actually working to solve those problems.
Yeah, and like when you said a gloomy outlook, I'd gotten to a point where I just hated the business. Like I just didn't, I felt like I'd built this thing, like this machine that had trapped me. And I was just like, I don't want to, like, something needs to change because I don't really want to keep doing this. I can't do this for 20, 30 years or whatever till I retire. So when it changed, I guess it didn't change overnight, obviously. When you came on board, we looked at, there's all these problem areas, and all right, let's pick one and start chipping away at it. And as we did that, you introduced all your set of tools and resources that you've got. And I started actually implementing them, and you're like, all right, this is now resolved. Let's move on to the next thing. And obviously it was still effort to actually do all that, but it was effort in the right direction, because I was finding out I'd do one thing and it would fix 5 things. So I can't think of an example at the moment, but it was like the pre-con agreements, right? Like me just going, all right, we're just going to do this. We're just going to get involved with clients that actually see the value in doing this with us. And that just eliminated these other jobs that I have to tender for and stuff like that. So it just instantly freed up so much of my time. And then I could actually dedicate my time specifically to these clients who are paying us to, look after them, instead of just them just being a number, basically. Which then led to us getting more referral work with getting similar clients and things like that. And so I think we started working together in May last year, and we got to November, which is when we recorded that first podcast episode, I think. And by the time we got to November, we were in a really, really good place. Like November was the first time Michelle and I went and took a week off. Like, it sounds weird, but in, nearly 3 years, it was the first time we took a week off. And I told my team, like, we're having a break. Like, I don't really want to be bothered and whatnot. And they were all on board. And it was a couple of calls just to check in to see how things were going. But it was so liberating to be able to just have the time to ourselves and, go for a walk along the beach and things like that. Like, I know that sounds like a fantasy, like it did 6 months before that, just being like, oh no, I can't take a week off and not think of the business. So yeah, it's over the 6 months, it made a massive difference.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of great work implementing these systems. I'm curious, what were the top 2 or 3 most impactful systems and processes that we worked on that you can look back and say, wow, those really moved the needle, or they had the most impact for us?
So the pre-construction agreement was a big deal, and we've actually, we always started as a design and construct business anyway, but we've very much structured our business to do 100% design and construct. So we call the pre-construction agreement, we've decided to call it the design phase agreement now. And that's with feedback after Rachel's come on board and see, so there's a clear identifier, phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 is the design phase and phase 2 is construction. And as part of the design, we do the estimates and everything as well. That's just killed so much time from being wasted because we're not tendering on unfruitful opportunities, basically. And we're working with the right clients now too. The next thing was, as we set up our actual processes and, individual tasks and who's accountable. And then when you did the accountability chart with us, looking at what it looks like 2 years from now and things like that, that was a big game changer as well, because it really, I had some sort of rough organizational chart in my head, but to narrow it down to what seat is accountable for what, regardless of the individual, and then figuring out what individual goes in there. That was a pretty big deal too. And then the last, the third best thing has been the revenue maximizer, because now it's not just me working towards our business goals, it's the whole team. So every month we do that, and then the site team knows what their deliverables are, the design team knows what their deliverables are, and so we're making sure we're profitable on a month-to-month basis, not getting 3 months down the track and going, man, there's a hole in our cash flow now, we need to sort this out. The revenue maximizer actually has helped us become more efficient on site, because now everyone's thinking about downtime and down days and whatnot, and how best to avoid that. So, and I'll mention another thing, like the handoff as well, from pre-construction to construction has been a big deal. That actually then ties in, they're all kind of tying together, obviously, but that kind of ties into the revenue maximizer, because if the site team has had, obviously you can't get perfect, but as good a handoff as they can, they have everything they need to be all right, it's going to take us 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever, and we can certainly achieve this by this date. And then all our long lead items are ordered beforehand, and I'm not sure what it's like over there at the moment, but it's quite chaotic with supply issues here. So, but when that happens, we just switch. So if we find out, actually we're not getting our windows next week, it's going to be the week after, we already have all this other stuff lined up that we just bring forward. And the best thing is we're prepared for it all. We have the design, we have, the orders have been issued. So all that it takes is we just switch, and we do, at the end of every day, the site team does the daily planner. So there's no time being wasted driving around to the shops and things like that. They go to site with what they need, they know who to organise to get there. And at the end of every week, or the beginning of every week, depending on what the week's like, we do a 2-week look ahead. So we're working ahead of any of these issues we haven't. And one of the big things, to reduce my personal anxiety is, at the moment, we've got contracted work going through the end of this year. So it's, end of July now. So we're pretty good till Christmas. And with what we're designing in pre-con is enough to do all of next year, which, by the time we get to Christmas this year, it's very likely that we will be booked out for all of 2023, which is just a massive weight off my shoulders. Because again, it comes back to, if we don't have work, what do we do? I'm going to have to let people go, because I really don't want to do that and things like that. So having that is it's massive security.
Yeah. So let's talk about what life and business look like now. How is your revenue compared to where it was 12 months ago?
So our revenue, I think we were just under 1.5 million 12 months ago. We finished this financial year at around 1.8 million with the same site team. Like, we haven't brought on more guys or anything like that. And this year, with what we've got in the pipeline, we'll probably go up by 30%, I'd say, roughly. And I'd started thinking about, like, because we've got the accountability chart and the team's seen it and they're working towards it and whatnot. And I started thinking about the next hire, and we need a carpenter and stuff. And my site team was like, nah, we don't need anyone. But they told me not to hire anyone. So I was like, all right, cool. And I said, it's up to you guys now. Like, when the time comes, let me know. Because I was like, I don't want you guys being under pressure and whatnot. So you need to tell me a few weeks ahead, but now this is your decision, not mine, like when the next person comes on board. And that's what I was saying about, we're growing, but we're growing at a pace that everyone's comfortable. Everyone's got a chance to succeed. And they themselves, they're a lot happier these days as well. Like, they're not having to do overtime and because we're more profitable, we've done bonuses, we've given our guys fuel cards and things like that as well. So, and our supervisor, we enrolled him into university at the start of this year, and so he's doing a construction management degree part-time. Our other carpenter, he's about to start his course next month, and it's a 12-month course for him to become a site supervisor and a licensed builder and things like that. So we're in this place where everyone's got the opportunity to tick off their personal and career goals. So yeah, it's a lot better.
So revenue is up around 20%. How was your profitability over the past 12 months compared to the previous year?
It's quite interesting, and I don't really want to brag about it or whatever, because at the moment there's builders here that are going broke, that are going under, and these are massive tier one companies going under, and companies that have won business awards and things like that. And in comparison, our profitability's increased, and it's increased because we're no longer wasting time. We're no longer wasting, materials, or there's no downtime at all and things like that. It's not like we're charging more or ripping clients off or taking advantage of whatever is going on at the moment. Like, our rates they've changed with inflation, but we're not like, oh, this client's a sucker because we can't find anyone else, we're just going to double our, triple our. Like, we're not doing that, because at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that clients are still happy and they're getting value for whatever they're purchasing. But where we have become profitable is, because I'm now the integrator, I guess. Like, I don't have a full-time role in the company as much. There's people better than me doing those spots. And you have to acknowledge that, because there's people better than me doing 3 or 4 different jobs that I used to do as one person. These jobs are being done a lot better. And so, our sales is better. Our completion from start to finish in a project is a lot better. So we're able to bring in more revenue on a monthly basis than we used to a year or so ago or whatever. So like a year ago, we probably did 100K, somewhere thereabouts, in revenue monthly. At the moment, we're sitting around 200 to 220 for this financial year. And that's without us pushing too hard and, people breaking and whatnot. Like, we have not done a single Saturday, and like, we won't. And most times we're not, like, I've told the guys, I'm not forcing anyone to do overtime. Like, I'm happy for them to do their 8 hours and whatever. If they choose to do overtime, it has to be a team decision. It can't be that one person wants to do it and he directs everyone else to do it. There is, with the wild weather we've had, there have been circumstances where things just haven't gone to plan, and we've had to do that. But there was, like I was saying, with the accountability chart, I don't have a full-time job. So I become support, essentially. And there was a period towards the end of May where we had really bad weather here, and there was the flu or COVID or whatever went through the team as well. And yeah, there was a personal death in the team too. So I just stepped out on site, and I loved it. I spent a week sitting on an excavator. It was awesome. It was like going on a holiday, to be completely honest. But, you know, I was able to step in and just help the team out. Like, instead of me going, like, I can't come and help you because I've got so much to do as well, which, although I did, because I'm working so far in the future now, it was easy to just be like, all right, I've got to step in and help you guys out. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And how many hours a week are you working right now on average?
At the moment, I'm probably close to around 8 to 10 hours, I would say. And anything, you know, I do work more than that, obviously, but they're the critical hours that I have to work. And those hours are basically as a CEO or as like a project manager, if you like, which is what I really love doing. You know, I'm basically doing meetings with our supervisor to do lookheads. I'm doing meetings with our pre-construction manager to figure out her lookheads and what we need to do. And then I basically, out of those two meetings, I have a list of things that I need to address for the week. And other than that, like I'll go to sites just to say g'day to the team or to clients and whatnot. And so I'm having much better interaction with everyone as well.
Yeah. And how's your anxiety level now?
Pretty much non-existent, to be completely honest. Like, I don't really, you know, it's I don't really have something to be afraid of anymore. There's, even with the current climate, like, you know, with the way the journalists are, and at the moment it's all about the recession and all this sort of thing. But because we've got so much in the pipeline, it's just not a fear anymore, because, you know, I know no matter what, like, we can retain all our current staff at a bare minimum and get through whatever recession or whatnot that we may have. So, yeah.
And so let's talk about how you feel about growing the business now versus where you were over a year ago.
I'm so much more open to it because, you know, not just that I'm open, but we are doing it. And we're doing it as a team. So when we've done the nail the handoff, and we've done a couple of sessions of that now, and we'll do another one at the end of September. With the last one that we did, we actually set, you know, we define who we are as a company, what our core values are, and what are our goals as a team. So it's no longer that this is what I want to achieve as a business owner. It was like, what do all of us want to do, sort of thing. And everyone got buying into it, and we set these goals. And, you know, we've got 1 year, 3 year, 10-year goals. And then every month, every quarter, everyone has their individual targets that they've got to hit. And these aren't targets that are specific to revenue or profitability. They're specific to each one's accountability. And how that then feeds into revenue and profitability moving forward. And, you know, if we continue growing without the need to hire additional people, as far as we can get with that means people that are currently working for us end up getting paid better and things like that as well, right? Because it's a natural transition. So everyone's now got buy-in into doing better and growing as individuals, instead of me saying I want to grow the business and everyone else having to do things that I'm telling them to do.
Yeah.
Now we just go about this.
So revenue is up, profitability is up. You've hired one person in the last year. You went from working 70, 80 hours a week to 8 to 10 hours a week now. Anxiety level is almost non-existent. You're getting paid for estimates. Seems like the get paid for estimates method using the pre-construction agreement has been a real lead domino for you. What would you say have there been any side effects of systematizing your business that surprised you? Some things that, like, one would expect, like, you went into this thinking, I need to work fewer hours. That was the expectation. But have there been any surprising side effects of systematizing your business, either in the business, personally, or anything else?
Yeah, well, there's been two side effects that I hadn't really pictured happening initially, and it's a source of like massive fulfillment for myself and Michelle. Our staff, like, they're just so much happier, and they're just in a better place themselves compared to the companies that they used to work for previously. And it's really emotionally rewarding seeing them achieve their own goals, and us being in a position to be able to facilitate that sort of personal progress, and seeing them grow and develop as individuals as well. And one big sort of unseen as well has been that we do a lot of the type of work that I was saying before, but we also, a portion of our business, we also do work for disabled people, and there's a government scheme here that allows them to get funding to improve, if someone's in a wheelchair, to modify their home to suit the needs of the wheelchair and stuff like that. And most of these people are people that have just been, used and abused by whoever over the years. And so when we go in and do these jobs for them, they're quite overwhelmed. Like, there's a lot of fear that, there's all these strangers in the house and all that sort of thing. But because we have processes and systems and we're so efficient, our staff and our team, they enjoy their jobs, right? So when they go to do these jobs, they're good people to deal with. And that's the feedback that I'm getting from these sort of clients as well. But these clients, at the end of the job, like, we're actually changing their lives, like how much more independence they get from being able to roll your wheelchair into a shower, like things that you take for granted, right? Like being able to just roll your wheelchair into a shower, sit there on your own, shower yourself without someone having to pick you up. Like, it's a very, very unnoticed thing, but like, they're so grateful at the end of the job, and all of our guys as well. Like, we just get so much more emotional reward out of it. But our competitors in the same field, like from the feedback that we've gotten, aren't able to deliver that value of, personality, I guess. And so we hear these stories of people who have been stuffed around and, taken advantage of and whatnot. And whereas we're able to actually get in, get the job done, get out of there, and give them a nice functional space that actually improves their life. And I hadn't really thought of that as a benefit sort of thing, because I was just used to looking at the numbers. But there's all this other, like, every time we get an email or a phone call from one of these like super happy clients, like, it's awesome. It's awesome to get that, it was pretty rare in the commercial world. So I'm quite happy with getting it here. And if we hadn't systemized our business, we wouldn't be in this position. I think we'd probably be like our competitors that are stressed, that are struggling with all these different issues and, trying to figure out things on the fly.
Yeah. Having an impact on, you're having a positive impact on, and really it's kind of a ripple effect. You're having a positive impact on your employees, positive impact on your family, positive impact on your customers, their lives. Yeah, I love it. So, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here. Congratulations on all the hard work, the success, and really excited about having you on the team, coaching folks in systematizing your construction business. So great stuff. Before we wrap up, any advice for someone who's thinking about someone who was in a similar situation, or maybe they're currently in a situation where you were a year and a half ago or so? Like, what would you tell them?
I think it's worth having a crack, no matter no matter how good you believe you are, or, how prepared you think you are. If you have any doubt that, what I've got here isn't perfect and I need help, just reach out and ask for it. Because the transformation, besides just the figures, like, you're going to add so much more value to your life in terms of, just being not anxious, being calm, having free time, being able to spend time with your kids and, going on holidays and things like that. And just the day-to-day dealings. Like, I have really awesome relationships with our clients because I'm able to go in and just have a chat with them about whatever, like, instead of just being like, oh, I've got so much to do and, I'm losing money on this job or whatever the case may be. So it's if anyone's in that similar position where I was a year and a half ago, like I would suggest getting involved and seeing where that takes you.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Monish. Appreciate it, man.
No worries. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
You bet. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I have one challenge and one request for you before you go. Here's the challenge. What is your 5-minute action item from this podcast? In other words, what is one thing you want to implement in your business or on your projects that will take you 5 minutes or less? My challenge for you is to create an action item as soon as this podcast is over and do it. Send yourself a text, send yourself an email, put it in your planner, write it down in your unicorn journal, whatever it is, but take action on something from this podcast episode so you get some real value from it. Now, here's the request. If this podcast has been valuable to you, please leave a rating and a review. Here's how to leave a review on Apple Podcasts on your iOS device. Number 1, open up the Apple Podcast app. Number 2, go to the icons at the bottom of the screen and choose search. Search for this show, Construction Leading Edge. Be sure to click on the show, not the episode. Then scroll all the way down to ratings and reviews, and finally click on write a review. These instructions will also be in the show notes. If you could leave a rating and a review, that would mean a lot to me, and it also helps get the word out there to other folks. And don't forget, if you want to get out of your business and make it run without you this year, go watch my free online training workshop at constructionleadingedge.com/get out. That's constructionleadingedge.com/GETOUT. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt. I'll see you next time. Remember, every project starts in the field, and Raken's field-friendly software makes documentation easy. With Raken's mobile app, crews can document progress on the go, and you can track everything in real time right from the office. So, give your field crews an app they'll actually use and stay on top of all your projects. To learn more, go to rakenapp.com. That's RAKENAPP.com. Home improvement is a big deal for everyone involved, but sometimes projects get off to the wrong start and the margin of error can be costly. Thanks to Hover, the home improvement experience becomes more simple, efficient, and transparent. Accurate measurements, collaborative design tools, and dependable estimates are all ways Hover helps you serve your customers better and improve your operations to grow your business. For more information, visit hover.to or download the free Hover app today.